This is Love and Relo, the voice of the relocation industry. I'm your host, Ben Cross, and today I have with me Danny Herskowitz, my good friend from Elliott Scott HR. Danny, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great.
Now, where in the world are you right now as we speak?
I am in New York. I'm in Times Square, actually.
Times Square, man, the heart of it all, dude. The center of the center.
That's right. Yeah, this is where all the action happens. So yeah.
Okay, Danny, I got to ask you a question. Have you ever done the Times Square ball drop?
Never done it. No, I don't really have too much interest in it. I'd rather stay home and yeah. Have you done it?
It's terrible. I did it in 1999 for Y2K.
Oh, wow.
My cousin went down there. We're like, yo, if the world ends, I'm going to be down here with my boys watching the ball drop. And I slept on like 42nd Street or 48th Street maybe on the street for like 8 hours, and froze my butt off out there. And it was crowded and you couldn't pee. It was just terrible. So
yeah. We can actually see it from my office. So I've been thinking about camping out here one night. And
if you can see it from your office, you guys should have a little party. I was always jealous of the people at the Olive Garden up there. That had the little banister, and then they could go inside when they wanted to. But anyway, I don't know why I went on that tangent, but hey, real quick, big shout out to Move for Hunger, who finally sent me my t-shirts. I appreciate y'all so much. Shout out to Adam Lowy and the crew over there in New Jersey. So everybody, I just want to really quick tee this up here. So Danny, we're going to get into some Q&A here, but in a minute. But Danny is I'd say probably the preeminent recruiter for the global mobility and relocation industry within the United States, specializing in relocation, RMC, service provider stuff. We'll get into a little bit about that stuff, but I felt like he was really the person to bring on to talk about some of the hiring trends in mobility. So if you're out there and you need a new job in relocation, or maybe you need to get some new teammates, some new team members and some new talent on the sales side, the ops side, whatever, or maybe an in-house position. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. Danny's an excellent resource. So Danny, thanks for being here today. I appreciate it.
No, appreciate you having me. I'm a big fan of the show. So it's a pleasure.
Cool. That's awesome. So really, let's get started. I mean, what are the hot jobs right now in the relocation world?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I was kind of thinking about this before we got on. In my world and the jobs that I've been recruiting for almost 6 years right now in global mobility, or a little over 6 years rather, the hot jobs are still consistent. And for me, those are sales roles and relocation consultants. So those are the two main jobs that I tend to work on, where there's just kind of this constant need for those individuals.
Okay. Why do you think there's constant need for them? I mean, are they just not working out, so they kind of go back to the well, or I mean, what is that about?
Yeah, I think, from a sales perspective, I think that they're always looking for good talent in our industry. They're always looking for people that can sell mobility solutions, relocation solutions, corporate housing solutions, whatever that is within the industry. And I think typically they'll look for people within the industry to sell those services. And there's only, a limited number of people many times that my clients are looking for. So I think as part of my job, it's to educate them around other types of individuals that could be good for those roles. Yeah. And then when it comes to relocation consultants, obviously, I mean, this is a very strong time from an economic perspective, and clients need people to service those accounts, and that's where consultants come in.
So let me ask you, let's take sales let's start with sales role, because I'm more familiar with that, right? So what types of skills are companies looking for in salespeople? Like, what are they looking for? Like, what are the skills they're looking for? And maybe what are some of the skills that are really hard to find that people just aren't bringing to the table? And maybe that's why the candidates aren't successful. I mean, what is that differentiator there?
Yeah, it's interesting. So the word that I typically hear from clients is we want a hunter. So somebody that has that mindset, who's proactive, who knows how to knock on doors, so to speak. Those are the words that they'll tell me. And, they want somebody that also has a book of business. So generally someone who has, really strong relationships that they've built up over time. And I think, the challenge can be sometimes trying to understand, or trying to get my clients to understand that, it's not always about the individual that has the book of business or the person that, necessarily is a hunter. I think all different types of people, in my experience, can be strong salespeople, myself included. I'm definitely not your typical salesperson.
Right.
But I've been able to make it work. And, I think that's a big part of, what I do as a recruiter is showing them that.
It's funny you say that, right? So I know several RMCs and moving companies and other service providers also that are looking for sales talent, right? And you're right, they have this idea in their mind of what a salesperson looks like, and it's this shining knight, figure that comes in and can close a whole bunch of business, has a ton of relationships, and has all this gravitas and all this stuff, And then I look at the leaderboard, and some of these organizations that I'm a part of, and sometimes it's the grinder, that's up there at the top, and they're not Mr. Personality, but they get it done because they're numbers, they just sheer volume in numbers, And then conversely, I go to a lot of regional relocation meetings, or ERC or AMSA or whatever. And you see people who may have a ton of relationships or in a huge book of business, but they're not able to translate it to their new role. People don't follow them, and they kind of end up hopping around a lot. And that huge book of business isn't always just because they know a lot of names and they can name drop. I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure if it always translates. Do you see that? I mean, what are some of the biggest reasons people don't work out in these sales jobs?
I think there's a lot of times a misunderstanding in terms of expectations. So clients will typically say, look, we really want to hire someone that has this book of business, that's super experienced, knows people, but we want them to have results within 6 months. And most of the candidates that I speak with will tell me, honestly, that's not really possible.
Right.
I don't think I can do that, even with all my relationships. I mean, I think there's sometimes there's a little bit of a gap there in terms of that understanding. And then
I want to touch on that for a second, because I think that's really important, right? And by the way, I see a few of you checking in here on LinkedIn. If you're watching on Facebook, I see a half dozen people watching on Facebook and YouTube as well. Please go ahead and leave a comment. Please go ahead and hit that like button. It means the world to us. We really appreciate it. Want to know where you're watching us from. Please shout out your company. I'll give you guys a read and a shout out there in the comments. Let us know you're there. Going back to what you're talking about lead time, I call that like a leash, right? They don't give you enough leash, right? They don't give you enough, enough time and tenure in the role. And, I think when they hire somebody, I'd like to hear your thoughts on how long of a leash or a tenure should they be building in when they hire let's say a sales executive, right? Is it 6 months? Is it a year? Is it 18 months? I mean, what are you seeing?
So from my conversations with the candidates that I work with, the average that I'm seeing is at least a year to a year and a half, and sometimes even 2 years. And this is for seasoned sales professionals that have really strong relationships and know the business really well.
And I mean, if you're a company that's hiring a sales professional, and I mean, what type of a range and a budget might somebody be looking to spend for a sales executive in the relocation industry?
It all depends. Some companies will have a model with a lower base salary and a much higher commission structure. Some will some will hire more of a guaranteed base salary or guaranteed commission and a bit lower on that side, a bit lower on the commission. I find that sort of that kind of mid-range for someone who's an experienced person, is the sweet spot is around 6 figures.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was going to say as well. I mean, I think it's a legit 6-figure job, and you'll see companies out there that try to do like a low salary and to make it all commission. But that's not really going to be successful in bringing in the kind of candidate they're looking for. So you got to put in that guaranteed money, right? And you got to put in that Russell Wilson money, that guaranteed money, and then you got to be prepared to sit and wait for a year and a half to start seeing the revenue come in. Because that's the other thing. You might sign clients at the end at the 12-month mark, but you're still waiting 6 months for that revenue to hit your books. Right. And on top of that, another thing that companies have to think about, and I know I'm preaching to the choir over here, and I'm sorry if I'm stealing your thunder here, but the other thing that they have to think about is not only do I have to float this person for 12 to 18 months at a 6-figure salary, but I also have to support them with the T&E, the travel and expense necessary to go out and hunt. Right? Because you can't go out and hunt with on an empty stomach. You got to go to these conferences. You got to go to all these registrations, all these sponsorships, all these advertisements and marketing materials and a new trade show booth. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, because companies ask me all the time, well, what does it take to get into the relocation industry? And I'm like, it takes a strong stomach. You gotta be prepared to fund that person, properly, or else you're gonna hire them for 6 months and waste a whole lot of money because you're gonna cut them and not really know what they have left. I mean, one last thing, I'll mention for my own personal self. I went to university, right? It would be 3.5, 4 years ago now, and I gave them a 5-year plan. What I was going to do. And I gave them a budget of what my travel, my T&E was going to cost and what my marketing expenses were going to be, and, everything. And it was very open kimono, and I'll be honest, my first year, I fell short of those revenue targets, and a company that was probably less stable, or maybe venture capital backed, or just didn't have the cash flow and the stability, or maybe had more debt than my company that's been around for 50 years, might have cut somebody in my position after that first year, But I tell you what, the second year was the best year we've ever had. And I think a lot of companies do that. They cut them too quick.
Yeah, it's so funny. I speak with so many people, and it's like, it's unfortunate, and disappointing, where people will say to me, I don't understand. I was doing so well. I had all this, this pipeline.
This stuff in the pipeline, man. You hear these stories about the pipeline on the unemployment line. I tell you what, man, the unemployment line. You got the biggest pipelines you ever seen on the unemployment line, man. I tell you what.
Right. But it's to me, it's I feel bad. I feel frustrated for people because you see they're very passionate about what they're doing, and it seems like they have the potential, like you were saying. Your company stood by you, and they gave it a shot. They gave it a fair shot, and I think I think people just need a little bit more of that, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, I want to give a couple shout outs and honor a few people that are checking in here with us. If you're watching on Facebook and YouTube, also, I see you out there watching. Go ahead and leave a comment for me. Appreciate it. It means the world. Shout out to Rory Ramirez. Hello, everyone from Mini Moves in Broadview, Illinois. Rory is the Cal Ripken of LOVE+RELO, okay? That man has not missed an episode. Yeah, he came in late yesterday, but he is on it. I'll tell you what. If I was his boss, I'd have a lot of questions for him, to be honest with you. Great dude. Great. I love you, Rory. Simon Johns, good evening from the UK. Loving the t-shirt. Appreciate you, Simon. All right, let's see here. Janet Turner checking in Florida. What's up, Janet? Stephen Meyer, Arpin Driver, Woodbridge, Virginia. Katie Linehan, hello from Connecticut. Danny is awesome to work with.
Thanks, Katie.
Isn't that nice? Doesn't that feel good to hear that?
Oh, yeah, it's awesome. It's the best.
Paula Kupka missed the show while I was away. Well, Paula, it's free wherever you go. Just remember that. Appreciate you, Paula. Alina Anderson Delay. Hey, Danny, you're the best.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Look at that. You're getting so many. Look at this. You paying these people? Are you Venmoing on the side? It's like Venmoing them over here.
Right. I got my phone down here.
Anthony Walmsley, hello, Ben, get me a job. Okay, Anthony Walmsley, he's got a company out there like Moving Ants Relocation or something out in England. I'm sorry if I mispronounced it, bro. I used to be a former soccer player. We call it soccer over here. Anyway, he needs a job, so give him a job. Cool. Janet Turner, good question, Ben Cross, thank you. Anthony Walmsley, 6 bloody figures, crazy. Where do I sign? Anthony, you'd be one of those guys that got a 6-figure job for 3 months and then you'd be on an unemployment line talking about your pipeline. No, but you got to like know some people and like know the market. But you come over here, I'll help you out, bro. Simon Johns, pick a company that has a unique USP. There is absolutely no point in jumping to your close competition that offers the same service. You know, that's an interesting point, Dan. Let's rip on that for a second. I mean, Simon's point is pick a company that has a unique USP. What is that? A service, unique service proposition, maybe? There's absolutely no point jumping to your close competition that offers the same service. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree with that. The unique selling proposition. You know, I think, you know, a lot of people I speak with, and I'll say, hey, I've got this great job, and I think this is where clients sometimes, you know, need to understand, right, that somebody's not going to necessarily move for a like-to-like job. Mm-hmm. You know, unless you have something like you know, unique, like you were saying.
Somebody's moving laterally, if you're offering somebody a lateral role and they're moving, that to me is a red flag. There's like a personality issue there.
Right. And I think a lot of the recruitment process is, you know, for me, it's a very, you know, if I was looking for a job, there's an emotional piece to it, an excitement. And people want to be excited about something. They want to see themselves in this new position that can take them to the next level. And if they're not excited, they're not going to be interested. It's not going to be compelling enough for them to join a competitor.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I see this in the moving industry all the time, where you get somebody and one day they work for United Van Lines, the next day they work for North America, and then they work for, you know, pick a truck, right? And I always say that. I mean, what do? You go in one day and say my blue truck's the best, and the next day you come in with a new folder and you're like, hey, my yellow truck's actually the best, and then the next day you're gonna come in, hey, my green truck's actually I'm really this time. And it's like at some point as a salesperson, your credibility becomes shot, you know. And I think that's one of the things that as salespeople we have to understand too. We have to protect our personal brand here, right? If I'm telling you this is the best thing since sliced bread today, I better have a damn compelling reason why I left that company and I'm selling this kind of bread tomorrow. And I think that's important, and that we remember that.
Yeah, and I think, you know, another thing, I guess, to go a little bit off topic is, you know, there's a lot of people that, you know, I speak with I was talking about relocation consultants and people in client services that want to be salespeople, but they're not necessarily given the opportunity. There's sort of typecast as people that are, you know, strong customer service professionals or relationship management professionals, but they can't sell. And, you know, that's another, I think there's a tremendous opportunity for people that are, you know, hungry, you know, so to speak, which is, you know, the words that clients would use to find people like that understand the business, that have this knowledge. And there's people that do it, that make that transition. But a lot of people I speak with, there's a few of them that are interested in making that move. And it's really challenging to get their foot in the door to do that.
Yeah, I hear you. Rosh, Danny is the best to work with. He is Mr. Mobility.
That's right. Rosh is my director in our office.
Is he? I'm feeling the vibe, Rosh. We should hang out sometime. Hold on, I'm gonna switch it up for Rosh just because it's getting funky in here. Here we go, Rosh. This one's for you, buddy. All right. Let's see here. Also, Leah Phillips, hello from Houston, Arpin, America Movers. Hey, Leah.
Hey, Leah.
See, let's go check the feed here a little bit here. Good point there, Simon. Appreciate you bringing that up. Juan Francisco Ramirez Rodas. I love my job, but there is no time to spend with my family. That is very important too. Do you see this becoming a thing, Danny? I mean, what is work-life balance playing into the talent market right now?
Yeah, it's huge. It's probably the number one conversation, I mean, that I have with candidates.
More so than compensation.
Yeah, I would say that does come up more so. I mean, I think remote working, that's the biggest thing. I don't necessarily think it's people that, want to take off from work. They love their jobs, but they want to have the flexibility. They want to be able to work sort of on their own schedule, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, I think also have time for their own life. And, one thing that we're doing at our company, which is great, is we have unlimited PTO. So there's, this trust factor from our employer to say, hey, you do the work that you need to do, but also we trust you to have that flexibility and have that, other part of your life that's very important. And I would say that's more important than compensation. People that I work with many times will say to me, hey, I'm willing to take a significant hit on my base salary to work from home twice a week even. So it's huge now. Yeah.
Well, and you know what? A lot of smart companies are seeing, well, hey, if I have people working from home 2 days a week, that means 40% of their time they're working from home. And if I have everybody doing that, and get people accustomed to the idea of Hotdesking, right, which means you share a desk, or you basically it's first come first serve desks, then I can occupy 40% less real estate, which lowers my rent 40%.
Exactly.
You see the government doing this all the time. I was talking to the guy from GSA, and he was talking about how he works from home like 3-4 days a week, and they've just been closing offices. And I mean, the federal government is the largest landlord or something in Washington D.C., but they've been divesting themselves of all this real estate because they've been going to more remote workforce. Now the other side of the coin is you see this was a big thing, I think, when Yahoo, I believe it was Meg Whitman, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, was the CEO of Yahoo at the time. She brought all these, at Yahoo they had a lot of people working remotely, and then she actually put out a memo saying, no, you're all coming back in. I think IBM's done the same thing, bringing people back in.
Right.
So now you're seeing this kind of correction on this and this rubber band effect. So, I mean, right now, as it stands in, let's just say relocation, let's say moving out of it, which is kind of more of a brick and mortar based business. Forget moving, which is very traditional and very brick and mortar based. But in relocation, let's say RMC world, what percentage of jobs are remote that you're looking at right now?
So I was just kind of looking at just coming up some old data really. When I first started about 6 years ago, I would say, when I was looking at the positions that I was working with my clients, 10%, 10 to 20%. I would say now half of the jobs that I'm working on, positions, are remote based to some degree.
Now, is that because they're sales jobs and they're like, you can go hunt anywhere, or does this also apply for the mobility consultant roles as well?
So it does apply for consultants and client services, which I never was seeing before, but that's something that's new. And a company that I do a lot of work with, they've implemented a twice a week work from home policy. So it's, not 100%, but that's something that's extremely appealing to people when I'm, talking to them about a potential opportunity there. I think it's probably one of the most, I would say, exciting things for people to join this company. And, not only the great services they provide, but that alone, what we were saying before, more important than money.
I got so many comments going on right here. I think this is a topic that resonates with everybody. But I'm going to make a note here because I also want to ask you about something else. Let's hear. Let's see here. Eric Scorzelli, howdy, Ben. He says pipelines are pipe dreams. Okay, in fairness, Eric Scorzelli invented the cardboard box over at Victory. So, his pipelines have all flushed out at this point, and he's just managing the world's largest packaging book right now. So Eric, I love you, man. Janet Turner, do you see age mattering the most of your clients? Do you see age mattering with most of your clients?
One of the great things about this business, this industry that I work in, I think people want people with a lot of experience. They're excited by people that have been in the industry, that have relationships, that know people, have seen the different sort of ups and downs within the business. So to be quite honest with you, I don't find that to be an issue specifically within the work that I do within this industry.
Yeah, so I'm gonna weigh in on this, right? And I think that there is a stigma out there that older employees aren't as malleable and aren't as open-minded and maybe ready with the technology aspect and how a lot of things are going digital and portals and all this stuff. But I've been watching, I watch a lot of Gary Vee, right? And he's been doing this thing on ageism recently, which has just been fascinating to me. And I encourage everybody that's watching this, especially if you're worried about ageism, if you're on the older side of the spectrum there. He's been talking about ageism and how a lot of, he thinks that older employees are the biggest value in the talent pool right now because they're underpriced. They have a ton of experience. And they offset, like you get these new companies out here and they're like all these young leaders and everything. But what he made a great point, I'm going to paraphrase, but it's like, you know, when stuff's hitting the fan, right? The older employees, the experienced employees have seen it before. They know what to do. Right? These younger managers haven't been punched in the mouth before, and they haven't hit in hard times, and they haven't been challenged, and things haven't happened like that. Whereas, you know, some of these more experienced employees have been through multiple cycles of this. They've been through acquisitions, and they've been through downturns, and they've been through disruption before, you know, and their cheese has been moved several times, you know, and they know how to combat that, you know, and they know what to do, and they keep their head in those situations, right? And so shout out to some of my older workers out there who might not feel as relevant, you know, in today's day and age, you know, with all these digital stuff going on and these hot companies out there and these startups and all the crazy artwork on the YouTubes going on right now. But seriously, shout out to y'all. I think there's a huge place, and I hope the people that are watching this that are hiring managers that may have been hesitant in the past to take a shot on somebody because of their age, even though they are a protected class and we're not supposed to be doing that. Let's be honest, these things happen. Discrimination is a reality. Prejudice is a reality. Blind spots are a reality. I hope that people understand the value that these people bring to organizations. And along with that, I'm going to also shout out my girl over here, Victoria McCullough. Hi, Ben and Danny. As you know, I'm looking to change positions simply because I've been a consultant forever and am a little burned out. So here's Victoria McCullough. I believe you know Victoria, don't you, Danny?
Yeah, hey, Victoria.
So Victoria is also a fan of the show. She's always calling in. She's always checking in. Never met Victoria, but I just have love in my heart for her. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so here she is. She's transitioning in her career. She worked for Cardis for a long time. I think she was an on-site mobility consultant. And she's looking for the next chapter in her career. I mean, and I think there's a lot of people probably watching that don't have the courage that she has to actually stand up and be heard. What do you say to those people? What's your counsel to people like that?
It's really hard. I mean, you know, to be honest, I try to be in their shoes. I'm not, you know, any candidate I work with, I'm not experiencing what they're experiencing.
Right.
What I try to do is tell them what I'm seeing. What I am seeing is just what we were talking before with the business development, you know, positions. There's definitely people get put in a box. They get typecasted into roles for reasons that they shouldn't be. I think there's people that have, you know, we were talking about before with, you know, this whole topic of ageism, people that have, you know, a wealth of experience and they're not able to get those opportunities. The best thing that I can say for the people that I've spoken with that have had success, and it's doing what Victoria's doing, it's networking. Continually doing that eventually pays off. And it's almost like, I was watching the podcast with the you had with Bob Berg with the Go Giver, and something that I was thinking about. Yeah, and it was great. And the one thing he said was, as a salesperson, was you guys were talking about don't focus so much on the outcome. And I think something that Victoria is doing, and a lot of other people that have had success, and they will, is they're focused on the relationship. What can they do? Showing their expertise, demonstrating that to people. And you have to hope at some point, that will pay off. And I think that's really the main thing. It's having those strong relationships with people to give you the opportunity.
Well, she's obviously out here and she's using her personal brand. She's even started making some videos, folks have been doing it as well. And I applaud her courage, and I think it's just fantastic. And I think so many people are inspired by it. But let's talk about real skills. Let's talk about bullet points on resumes, right? What are let's say she wants to continue being a mobility consultant. Let's say she wants to be a mobility consultant for a company, right? What types of skills, not knowing anything about her specifically, but like what types of skills are going to jump off the page at an RMC looking for a remote mobility consultant?
Yeah, I think it depends on the job. A lot of the clients that I work with, they'll want to make sure if it's an international relocation position that they have true international assignment management experience.
When you say true international assignment experience, like what do you mean by that?
They want people that understand the compensation aspect around the relocation, who have dug deeper into that, who have worked with the tax providers. And then you also have people, clients that I work with, which is actually a very sought after skill, because a lot of people necessarily have that, is the home sale experience. And a lot of, people that are a bit, say, newer into the industry don't have that experience. And I think that's an amazing thing if you have that, because, my clients, if there's an open position within home sale, they will be super excited to find someone who has that.
Now, how important are certifications, CRP, GMS? I mean, are they important or not?
It's funny. I think there's a lot of value to them. I think, the CRP, the GMS, a lot of job descriptions you'll look at, they'll say you should have a GMS, you should have a CRP. It's preferred. It's usually not required. But for me, the biggest thing that I see with certifications, it's not necessarily, I think people sometimes think, myself included, you get a degree or you get a certification, you have this title next to your name, and you automatically think that you're going to get this jump in earning potential within a day. And I think the value you get is not necessarily tangible as much in the beginning. I think it's a longer term thing. I think the people that I've spoken with that have benefited the most from it have gotten the ability to go deeper into their area of expertise, have built actually a sense of confidence. A lot of people that I think it's great if, somebody isn't working or, they're struggling to find a new job. Getting a certification is incredible. It can give you a level of confidence. It can help you sort of stay in the game, so to speak, as people have told me. And I think that's where the true value is of the certifications. On paper, if you have GMS next to your name, is it going to help you stand out in front of beyond candidates that don't have that? I think it will. I think it will make a difference. But I think there's just so much other value that you get aside from the increase in pay, which more than likely you may not see that for a long time.
Yeah, I wonder if folks that are having trouble finding opportunities have a hard time articulating the experience that they've amassed, right? So they may have this international assignment experience that you're talking about, but maybe they're not highlighting it in a great way on their resume. Resumes, is that something? Do you ever work with people on their resumes? I mean, is that something that you give them critique on?
Yeah, I think, the biggest thing is, I think anyone who is searching for a job, right? I think most people know that you want to tailor your resume to the job description. You literally want to look at, the top bullet points that you're seeing in the skills that they're looking for, companies looking for, and you really want to mirror that to your resume, and you want to put those at the top. So that's the biggest advice that I give is, to keep it simple. I work with people that are actively looking that have, 5 or 6 different resumes for different jobs. And I think that's fantastic, because really the resume, all it really is, it's kind of like, it's an entrance fee. It's how you get in there. It doesn't really matter that much. I think there's, it's the way I like to look at it. It's a ticket to get in front of a decision maker.
I want to, man, we got some fantastic comments here. Golly, people are really, really hot for this topic. Let's see here. Talked about age. Love you too, Ben. Love you, Rory. Longtime watcher. Love the show. Steve Maples plugging himself here. If only there were 2 great international relocation recruiters in the sector. That's funny. Simon John. I love when people just come on to shamelessly self-promote in the comments. Spot on, Ben. Joe Fick. Yo, Danny H. Eric Scorzelli. To Simon's point, that matters as to your personal goals. Is the ladder at your existing firm too clogged, possibly with family ties, the opportunity offer a chance to build your own team, change a culture. Sometimes the canvas you are working on already has too much paint.
I like that. I like metaphor. Yeah. And
that's the value of experience. These phenomenal pieces of wisdom here. I mean, why are people looking for, let me transition this and say, why are people looking for new opportunities, Danny? I mean, what brings people to reach out to you and say, hey, you know what? I think it's better time I better look for something else.
I mean, to be honest, I think the number one thing we'll always find, I know we were talking about how remote working is sometimes more important than money, but money's still very important. People want to get an increase in their pay. They feel that they should be getting that. So that's still a very big motivator. I'm not going to take that away. There was, I think it's funny. A lot of the conversations that I have with people it really always comes back to this, no matter what level of position that I'm working on, they'll always say it's really not about the job. It's about the people that I'm working with.
Yeah.
And I was listening to the podcast you had with Lauren Herring about how your company brought you, your son, and your wife out and showed them around, gave them the area tour, right?
Yep.
That to me, I mean, that's what people are looking for.
Yeah.
You can give somebody more money, you can give them more benefits, but that's something that's hard to find. And I think what always comes back to that when I speak with people.
Yeah. Well, that's your life. I mean, you're at work 8, 9, 10 hours a day, right? Who are you sitting next to? Who are you going to lunch with? Who are you collaborating with? I mean, if these people are jerks, well, that's a problem, or your boss is. Right. But also, like, is that a culture fit for you? Do you have a tribe there? Do you have a wolf pack? Do you have folks that you feel like you can really, I mean, I hate to call it a clique, but I mean, it's kind of what it is, a friend group, a work friend group, right? Right. I think that's kind of thing that keeps people engaged and effective. Paula Kupka, Danny, I agree with your comments regarding people who are hungry and have the relationship and knowledge skills to transition to sales. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How does someone transition from, let's say, account management to account executive or, a sales position?
So moving from a account management position to sales
oriented, or maybe even, more of a lead, maybe operations, maybe they've been in relocation for 5 years as an account, maybe they worked up as a consultant into an account manager, and they're like, you know what, I want to start making some real money. I want to go into sales, bring and how do they successfully make that jump? Or have you seen people successfully make that jump?
I think, like I was saying before, not enough. I think people really struggle. I've had, it's been a challenge for me that I generally will work with people that have this desire to do it, but people are hesitant. Clients are hesitant to hire those people. And I think if you're talking about somebody who, let's say, wants to go from a client services position or an operations position, let's say within an RMC, for example, a lot of the individuals that I work with, and this is not going to help me, but they've stayed in their jobs for a long time and they've built relationships internally and they've been able to move up within their organization and try different things. And get that experience. So I think a lot of times, people that want to try something different, let's say, account management, operations, team leadership role, maybe you want to go into, I don't know, RFP writing or even sales. I think the transition sometimes is easier internally. They already know you, they already trust you. You built that credibility.
As a salesperson, does it matter? Okay, Simon Johns, as a salesperson, does it matter where you work if you bring in the business? I'm happier out seeing clients.
Does it matter? No, I mean, I think at the end of the day, I mean, it's what we were talking about before. I mean, you have to feel, supported by your business. I think that's the main thing. I think having that support is going to make you successful.
Rory Ramirez says, I love the salespeople. They bring in the business. With that being said, there's a but here. With that being said, I think they should, at the very least, work in the other departments for one day. Go out on a job and see some of the stuff movers have to deal with. And I've heard that my whole career, right? Because here I am wearing a suit to work. I got my shoes shined. I walk through the warehouse, all the movers, we talk about my shiny shoes, am I going to the dance tonight? They say stuff like that, right? And I'm, cool, right? Great. But, I'd also, and I do, I get out on jobs, I go to do QCs and things like that. And I go be present, and show face on these things sometimes, probably not as much as I even should, right? But I'd also like to see them do a salesperson's job.
Right.
Try to go in the home and know that if you don't close this, you don't pay your rent. Try waking up at 4 o'clock, hopping on a plane, 5:30 in the morning, flying across the country, showing up and doing a presentation in front of 20 people you don't know with a box of donuts by 10:30 Pacific time, and see how you feel about it. Be interesting.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Do you do Krispy Kreme or Dunkin' Donuts?
First of all, unless I'm in New England, I would never bring Dunkin' Donuts to a meeting. Okay, Dunkin' Donuts. This is gonna upset a lot of people. I have very developed opinions on donuts and coffee that upset pretty much half the people watching right now. But if you go and get Dunkin' Donuts, if you spend $5 on a dozen donuts, you're gonna get about $5 worth of attention from people. And I came in there to have all the attention, and I came in to give as much as possible. So I'm going to go find the best dang donut shop in that town. And I don't care if I got to drive to Gurnee, Illinois to go get donuts for my boys in Chicago, but I'm going to bring in some donuts for the ladies that are going to blow them away. And I think, because I think every little thing you do as a salesperson is an indicator about the future relationship you're going to have. So if you bring in garbage donuts to people, you're probably also bringing very mediocre and uninspired service. So everything goes with intention and inspired. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Dunkin' Donuts to people. Get out of here with that. Unless I'm in Boston, they love Dunkin'.
Yeah, I'm in New Jersey. People in New Jersey like Dunkin' Donuts. There's one literally on every.
Well, wouldn't you take Krispy Kreme over Dunkin' or no?
I'm a Dunkin' guy. I'd say.
Oh my God. All right, that's our show for the day. All right. Oh, man, we're gonna have to sort this one out, Danny. All right, let me see here. Let's go. Eric Scorzelli tells me to watch my mouth. He's 65. Love you, bro. Roy Ramirez. Okay, Jamie Massler. Hi, Ben. At Houston Airport, heading back to Mississippi from Chippa. I heard the Chippa conference was fantastic. Corporate Housing Professionals of America. Now, do you source for housing, corporate housing folks, or do you source mostly for RMCs, or what types of clients use you, you know, and why do they use you?
So I'd say when I first started out, a lot of the work was with relocation management companies. But over the past 3 years, I've expanded out, and I pretty much have covered, I would say, almost all areas that fall within kind of that relocation umbrella, so to speak. So you've got corporate housing, which is definitely an area I've been working in. Big area now is sort of the relocation technology space, expatriate tax. So, Big Four or accountancies that are looking for people that work with assignees around tax. Immigration is another area. So I've covered a lot of these different areas, and that's what I do now. And I find that it's pretty easy for somebody that, say, has sold, and this is where we're talking about the sales kind of transition. Somebody who's in a corporate housing role, selling for them, I think, has a much easier time getting into a role within RMC and selling for them. So I think there's been a lot of that sort of synergy there.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Sandra Clary, hi, gents, great topic. How about the college degree requirement as a gatekeeping filter, keeping out great candidates with extensive experience? I went through that a time ago and have a friend struggling to get in front of decision makers because she doesn't have a degree. She'd be a great mobility, tax, HR team member. Fantastic question, Sandra.
Yeah, that is a really good question. It's funny, when I first started recruiting in the industry, I found that there was quite a lot of very successful people that did not have bachelor's degrees, and still to this day. So I would say that in my own experience, that you can still have a really, really strong career even now. I think it's going to be harder. I think if you look at some of the statistics out there, research done, people have a harder time, I would say, moving up career-wise if they don't have that bachelor's degree. But I would honestly say, I wouldn't let that deter somebody, because there's a lot of people I know that don't have bachelor's degrees and are able to work their way up and be very successful.
So what is it though? How do they do that? I mean, how are those people able to work their way up and be very successful and circumvent the gatekeeper that she's talking about? I mean, what Sandra's talking about is people aren't even getting a look. They're not even getting an interview. Yeah. They don't check that box. So, but you're telling me, and I know one of my good friends, Travis Washer, right? He's the general manager of our office in Cincinnati. We recruited him up here to take over our Farmington Hills branch. We relocated him down there to take over that branch. He's been a rock star. He's worked with me at 3 companies. I take him everywhere I go. He's the man. But he doesn't have a degree. He went to the Navy, didn't go to college, but it's and it's still a chip he has on his shoulder. I mean, it's an insecurity for him. So how do these people get around that requirement? Is it through networks? Is it through writing an amazing cover letter? Do they have to have a strong personal brand on LinkedIn? I mean, what do you do to hurdle that?
I think it's, that's where, to me, a certification can be really good, can show this kind of, I guess, more of a formal education, right? And that's what sometimes companies are looking for. So I think if you don't have, and a lot of the people that I work with, they will have the GMS or the CRP, but they may not have a bachelor's degree, and they've still been able to get past that hurdle.
If Sandra is still watching right now, I'd love to hear if the person you're talking about has considered getting a CRP or a GMS. Now, those still cost $18 or whatever to get. And so if you're coming out of pocket, that's a lot. But if the company that you're currently working for will sponsor it because it makes you more relevant in your current job, but then you can take that and you can also parlay that into a better position down the road, something to consider. Yeah.
And I would also say, I mean, the honest truth is it's like a marriage. Some people just aren't for you. You want to, like you said, your friend, he found the place that was accepting him for the experience he had, and he's doing really well. So I think if the company is requiring that just might not be the company if you're not willing to go to school, and there's a lot of companies, I think, but that's what's great about this industry. There are a lot of companies where you can still be successful without the bachelor's.
I think you bring up a good point though, right? It's like if the company's criteria is keeping you out, it's probably a company you don't want to work for anyway.
Right. Exactly.
What you're strong at,
Exactly.
And then Jack Jampel, Jack, love you, man, brings up a great point here. Most success in landing a new job or even gaining business is through referrals. Grow your network, but you have to be sincere. And I mean, going back to my buddy Travis there, I hope he's watching. I love Travis. Hope he's watching. But I mean, that's what happened. I'm an advocate for him. I'm his biggest fan. I'm like, this guy can produce. Put in any situation, he comes through in spades. And it might take him 6 months to learn the company and learn the business because it's a totally different business. But every single time, like the cream, he rises to the top, right? And that's what happened. His first year with university was a really tough year for him because he was new to the brick and mortar traditional moving and storage business. But once he figured that out, he's probably the strongest general manager that we have out of our 4 branches right now, in year 2. And that was my year 2 epiphany.
Right.
So any hiring manager out there, by the way, don't expect jack out of somebody in year 1. I mean, really, truthfully, don't. Look at year 2,
I think that's a good point that Jack was saying about the sincerity in terms of that networking approach. I always say to candidates, there's a lot of times candidates will say to me, or they unfortunately wouldn't get a job because, I recently had somebody that was too nervous on the interview. And they came to me and they said, I was really nervous. I don't know, maybe I should try something different. What should I do? Who should I be? And it's exactly that. I said, you still want to toe that line between, being confident, but also being sincere. So, I think it's important, no matter what you're doing within your job search to maintain that, or if you're saying business development in general, the sincerity is, if anything, is probably more important. And, so the company will see that at some point.
Well, and as people, we are professional BS detectors, right? All day long, we're bombarded with BS, with marketing or whatever, or robocalls from, somebody, on the other side of the world telling me they're from the Social Security Administration. I got those today.
I get those every day, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, we're not going to fool anybody. So just be a good person. Let's see. So a couple things here. Katie Linehan, Dunkin' Donuts all the way, Danny.
Nice, Katie. Nice.
Connecticut, though. she's a New Englander. I'll tell you what.
Okay, right. It doesn't care.
Simon Johns, I'd rather have experience and street smarts over a degree. I think a lot of people would agree with you, especially in the moving business. Mark Gray, a moving industry recruiter. Good afternoon from Atlanta. Danny, do you do splits? For those not in the relocation business, those splits are shared placement fees.
We can talk afterward. Let's talk after the show. Yeah.
Moving on. You never know what you're gonna get. It's like a box of DMs. Let's see. John Zilka. How do the same sales? John Zilka, president of NRI Relocation. John's a friend of the show here. Cool. How do the same salespeople keep getting hired firm to firm without producing? Give account management folks a chance.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Exactly. That's exactly it, John. Let someone off the bench. Let's see what happens, I think people it's funny, they're scared to take a risk. And by doing that, you kind of, you get the same result.
Let me tell you exactly what's happening, right? Somebody who doesn't know what they want is sitting there like, how do I get into this business? How do I get X? And they're scared, to your point. And then some candidate comes in and they snow them with all of this. Oh, I know so-and-so over here. I know so-and-so over there. They basically read the top 60 RMCs that they pulled off the ERC website. Oh, I know so-and-so. I know so-and-so. I did this. I did that. And then the person's like blown away by their book, right? And then they come on, and then those people sit back and rest on their laurels or their book, right? And their name recognition. And conversely, because they're so expensive, they're given a shorter leash. And then by the time the company's invested as much as they can invest, they're out of there. So
yeah, that goes back exactly to what we were talking about in our earlier conversation.
yeah,
that's right.
Sandra Clary. So this is a follow-up from her question before, where you suggested the certifications. And she said, good suggestion. She was 27 years at her last job within the financial industry in their HR and mobility department. I don't see a cert on her LinkedIn profile. Thanks for exploring the topic.
Sure.
So that can move the needle. Now, this is interesting. She brings up she was 27 years in the financial industry in their HR and mobility department. Let me ask you, Danny, a lot of people want to be in-house mobility managers, mobility consultants at firms. What is, what are you seeing out there from that? And how can people make that transition going from provider in-house?
Yeah, it's the same thing, I think, with the topic we were talking about with people going, say, from account management to a sales role. You're always going to have, I think, that challenge and resistance, because like we said, people are scared of what this person can do. They might not have a proven track record working within that environment specifically. The people that I speak with that have made the transition or have worked with in doing so, they say it's really about being a jack of all trades. So becoming almost like an expert in everything is important. So you've got, your tax, you've got your global compensation, immigration, understanding the ins and outs of all those different types of parts of the business. And then there's, people, I think, that have really strong abilities to empathize with clients and work closely with them. So I think it's, you see the same thing in reverse, where people are on the corporate side and they want to go onto the RMC side, which is also a challenge. And I think it's about telling that story to the employer of, hey, this is what I've done. I've been able to sit in the client's shoes because I was a client, and I'll be really successful at a provider and vice versa. And I've worked with multiple different clients. And I think that's really what it comes down to. It's explaining that, and almost it's a story. That's what it is. You really want to tell your story in that regard.
I see so many people that are like from RMCs or service providers that want to get into that corporate mobility job. But to be honest, there's fewer and fewer of those roles. They outsource them, and then they outsource them down to like one position. That's then when that person leaves to go take a better job, a lot of times they just kind of close ranks around and say, oh, well, we're just going to have the benefits person manage the RMC, and we're going to be okay with that until we're not okay with that. And there's not as many of those jobs left.
That's why it's so difficult. Exactly. And then also, there's only a certain number of people that have been in an in-house mobility role. You have to think, right? There's a limited number of people. And those people, unfortunately, they're going to be the first, or unfortunately for someone who's on the provider side, to be the first ones to have that opportunity to interview. But yeah, no, it's a good point. It's not an easy transition with the limited amount of opportunities there.
Yeah. Georgia's checking in from Florida. Hey, Georgia. Ryan Beal, my buddy there. Travis Washer and Ben Cross have been an awesome team for a long time. Rare to see a duo stay together so long and have such success. Proud to know them both. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate you, buddy. Yeah, Ryan's a friend of ours from Florida. But yeah, I'm going to talk about Travis first. He and I have such good trust and work together so well. We understand each other's strengths, and we're so different. He's an ops guy, super kind of conservative and easy, like steady Eddie, wakes up early, works long hours. I'm kind of flashy, come in late, and big vision guy, and do videos on LinkedIn, and we just had a great symbiotic relationship. And it's been great working with him as well. There's one last question I wanted to ask, because we're kind of short on time here. If I want to be the CEO of a mobility company, right, service provider, RMC, whatever, right, what type of career advice would you give me?
This is a great question. I actually once asked a CEO about that. I said, so how did you how did you get to be where you are? And he did it in a very short amount of time, actually. And he said to me,
that's what I'm looking for. I want that one.
You want that one, right?
Short amount of time. That's one.
Right. Well, the first thing he said to me was run for the hills. You don't want it.
You don't want it. You think
you don't want it.
You don't want it, yeah.
Right. He's like, that was the first thing. And the second thing he said to me, which I thought was really, really profound, insightful, he said, I'm no different than anyone else. I started out in an entry-level position, but the difference in terms of what I did was I always looked for problems within the business. I proactively looked for problems and I came up with solutions for those problems. So I thought that was a really great point. And you see people that are able to kind of just so quickly sort of move up the ranks. It's because they're able to solve problems and people take notice of that.
But they're not just solving problems, they're looking for problems.
They're looking for problems, exactly. They want them, they get excited by them. And look, I mean, to be honest, I think there is a level of patience. I think I read a stat that it takes about 25 years for someone to become step into a chief executive role. So I think, there is a level of, you do have to be patient, but I think if that's something that you want, that's what he told me. And I thought that was great advice.
That's excellent advice. Oh, that's excellent. I feel like I could talk to you all day, and I feel like we get a ton of comments because, I mean, everybody, either wants a better job or needs to hire somebody, right? I feel like we're super relevant. Alina Anderson-DeLay says, very true. Corporate mobility jobs are disappearing, unfortunately. The C-suite sees those roles as an expense and not as a value add.
Interesting.
And this is something I've been wanting to explore. And if you're a global mobility person that wants to explore it with me, I'd love to talk to you about it. I was actually supposed to have Holly Klontz on to talk about it. Hopefully I can get her back. But getting a seat at the table and moving into more of a strategic role where you actually can show the company that you're paying for yourself. The programs that do really well and have these very robust teams and stuff. I mean, I think about ADP, another program I'd love to have on the show, Becky Woods. But I mean, they look at mobility as a profit center because they also collect referral fees for home sale. They collect referral fees for household goods, and they actually show it as a profit center. And so that the function of mobility is in the black every year and not in the red. So it becomes less of a question of how do we limit our spend within relocation and more of a how do we offer this service to more of our employees as an employee. Right. That's kind of cool because then it's how do we fund this, not how do we cut this. So very interesting. Great point, Alina. Alina, also I'd love to have you on as well. Danny, is there anything else that you want to talk about?
No, I mean, this was great. I think this was an awesome opportunity. I hope I was able to provide some value here. And one thing I will say is we actually, just a little bit of a plug, we have a global mobility survey that we're conducting right now. If you go to my LinkedIn page, you can go and complete the survey. We'd love to have as much data as possible to get that market intelligence so we can talk more about these really interesting topics and have information to do that. So that's pretty much it. But I appreciate you having me on, Ben. I really do.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure. I did have one last thing from my buddy Travis. Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate the compliment. It hasn't always been easy, but at this point, we've complimented each other and created success. Cool. Tomorrow we will have Susan Benavidez, the CEO from Plus Relocation, on. I can't wait to talk to her. She is truly an inspirational person. Elliot, I was calling you Elliot. Danny, have you had a chance to meet Susan yet in your career?
No, I haven't. No.
Well, she's fantastic. So I hope you can tune in. Thanks everybody who left comments. I appreciate it. Danny, if people want to get in touch with you after this, I have a feeling they're going to be blowing you up. What's the best way to get in touch with you?
LinkedIn, Danny Herskowitz. Easiest way.
Easy, right? Hit you in the DM. Awesome.
Exactly.
Sounds good. Well, Danny, thanks so much for coming on Love and Real. I do appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Ben. This was great.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.